I need to be really honest with you guys. I've had a rough time with browsers over the last year. Arc was great, and I think it's fair to say was, because I'm far from the only person having massive problems with it, in particular, performance issues. My wonderful M2 MacBook Pro Max, whatever the heck the spec is on it, that used to get 8 to 10 hours of battery, gets less than 2 if I have Arc open. When I complained about it publicly, I was far from the only one having these issues. I need to emphasize how absurd the battery drain is, though. We're talking 6 times more being used less than Chrome was doing. I was going mad. I was trying to get work done in an Uber, and my laptop's fans had spun up, and it was falling apart. And when I went and checked what browser company and Arc were up to, they hadn't posted anything other than icons in like a year, and even the icon posts were November. It's clear that this browser is actually dead, and everybody who was mad at me for saying this earlier was wrong. Arc is dead, and I am genuinely sorry to anybody who started using it based on my recommendations. I will say I have lost a lot of credibility in recommending browsers, which means you shouldn't use this as an end-all be-all, the right place to go if you want the best possible browser. But I need to right some of my wrongs here, recommending a VC-funded browser that hates its users, that has no interest in fixing the problems that they caused, and is specifically continuously dodging the opportunities to own it, fix it, or just open source it. So I am frustrated. I have done everything from trying browsers that are ancient, that were customizable, to building my own. And I think I have finally landed somewhere good. But before we can get there, a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is for those of us that are tired of making decisions about our backends. And even I'm starting to get to that point. Convex is the all-in-one platform to solve most of your backend problems for you, and it's open source. Everything from server functions to vector search, cron jobs, file storage, type safety, and more. It's just kind of a good experience to work with. I've been really impressed. I'm going to show you what I mean by doing a real quick demo here. This is an app I'm running on localhost. It's one of their templates, and it's really cool. I'm going to send a message. Please subscribe. And it basically instantly appeared in the other browser. It's a different browser because I wanted to show this isn't doing some weird stuff locally. This is actually server-side sync. So what does the code look like? It's got to be really complex, right? Well, here in our real code base, it's just inside of it, next to our Next.js application, we have a folder named Convex. In this folder, we have our list query, has no arguments, has a handler, which will hit the context.db.query for messages, order to send, take 100, and then you just return a promise. It's writing a traditional TypeScript. The mutation looks pretty much the same. If you're curious about the database definitions, here's the schema. That's the whole thing. Yes, it is actually that easy. You've now seen pretty much all the backend code. Where is the complexity? Is it hidden in the app? Let's look. Here we have messages is use query api.messages.list. That looks familiar. That's kind of like tRPC. And sure as hell, if you command click, it brings you right to the backend code. Best DX ever, and it makes sure that if you make a change somewhere, it hydrates throughout your whole app and you'll see type errors where they actually happen. And now you get the free sync too. You literally just call the query and now it will automatically update. You're done. How cool is that? If you want the best TypeScript first solution for your backend, it's pretty hard to beat Convex. Check them out today at soydev.link/convex. As I saw how many people were having problems and how little work was being done in fixing them, I started once again investigating all my alternatives. I made a quick list of the ones that people recommend the most and why they are not what I'm looking for. Obviously, gold standard is Chrome. It's stable, well supported, and it has a good ecosystem, but it has none of the customizability that I'm looking for now. Not that I customized Arc a ton. Hell, I barely even used half the features, but I have fallen in love with a couple key things, like the sidebar, like not having the top of the browser have this giant bar on it that takes up a third of my vertical space on my small screen, like having hotkeys that actually make sense for a bunch of things. I missed all of that so much that I just couldn't do Chrome. I tried, I couldn't. I'll be honest, I still think most people should probably just use Chrome. And if you haven't gotten addicted to these custom hotkeys and workflows yet, don't. It's like getting an SSD where you don't realize how slow hard drives were until you have one, and now you can't live without it anymore. So honestly, don't dive down this rabbit hole if you could avoid it, because it will make you unhappy for the rest of your life. Speaking of unhappy, we need to talk about Brave. Because I do not genuinely understand how anyone recommends this browser. It runs like shit. It looks like shit. It's full of Web3 bullshit. It doesn't have any customization whatsoever. You have no control over the hotkeys. You can't even set a hotkey for opening and closing the sidebar. All Brave is a Web3 skinned worse Chrome with a sidebar. And at least you can get it without the Web3 skin if you use Edge. So I guess the most reasonable recommendation to get some of this functionality is probably Edge, but there is zero customization of hotkeys in it at all. I was blown away how little control you have in Edge, considering how much different it is. I couldn't get it to do any of the things I wanted it to do. Cool that it had vertical tabs. Like if I open it quick, Edge. Certainly, you can tell it's Chromium and Electron based with the speed of opening. Like it looks fine. This animation when you hover here is the worst thing ever. That's not just the compression or my video. It is that jank. It just looks awful, especially on high refresh rate screens. You can't really hide shit. You can't make this top bar go away, and we're losing so much real estate from that. It's sad, but it's better than Brave, low bar. But honestly, personally, I would just use Chrome. Like this isn't a big enough win, especially with how ugly that slide-in is and the fact that you can't hotkey to pin, unpin it, which is all I want. If I could have a hotkey that hit that button, I probably would have given Edge a real shot. But after seeing how much the team downplayed the needs of people in their forums, I just stopped caring. Next, we have Zen, which is very customizable and very close to what I want, but it's Firefox-based, which is probably the biggest flaw. It's still early and has problems, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit. And as far as I understood at the time, the battery life and the performance weren't great. We'll come back to Zen. Speaking of Zen, Firefox. We're going to move on. I wrote down this list of the specific things I wanted. A vertical tab bar, the ability to hide everything for a simple UI, like what I have on the screen now, where all I have open is the website, and I have the little like border around, which is fine. A Command-Shift-C to copy current URL. I cannot tell you how much this is important to me. The regularity in which I am copying a URL to put it in my notes, to send it to somebody, to put it somewhere else. It is a constant thing. I am doing this at least 20 times a day, probably more, and multiple hotkeys to select the thing and then copy from it. Not acceptable. I could not tolerate that, especially because of how slow that flow was in all the browsers I tried it with. I also need a hotkey to toggle the sidebar. I would like it to be Chrome-based. I want the performance to not suck. There is a browser that hit all of these things. And it has the world's most ugly browser icon, Vivaldi. And I was surprised. It genuinely seemed like Vivaldi was going to be the right browser for me. I had no way to hide the top bar, which was sad, but tolerable. I could set my hotkey for the sidebar and disable the animation on it. I could put it on the right, which is a nice benefit. Couldn't do that with Arc. I was feeling pretty good. It was ugly as sin, but with a little bit of customization, I could make it tolerable looking. I was still sad I couldn't get rid of the top bar, but like, whatever. But there were a couple things I couldn't deal with. The first was the quick copy, which I got working, and I'm actually really impressed with the level of customization you can do in here. The quick commands in Vivaldi are incredible. And I created one, copy current URL. It focuses the address bar, it has a 10 millisecond delay, it copies the content, it has another 10 millisecond delay, and then it focuses the page. And then I bound this in the keyboard layer to be a hotkey, copy current URL, Command-Shift-C. And this works great. You'll see that little flicker up there. That's because I copied the URL, and it's there. Awesome. I was reviewing a PR a few days ago. I'll find a random upload thing one. And I was in the pull request. I was looking through files, and I wanted to send it to somebody on my team. So I Command-Shift-C'd, and I guess it's working now. I don't know why, because when I tried this yesterday, I couldn't, because the hotkey conflicted with the page, and Vivaldi will prioritize the page's hotkeys over yours. Always. Even the ones built into the browser. So if you happen to have a hotkey that some random website had as one that you use regularly, you will not be able to use that hotkey in that website. One of the killers for me was Excalidraw, because I bind Command-Shift-E as my open close, and Command-Shift-E is export in Excalidraw. So I cannot close my sidebar with a hotkey when I have Excalidraw open. And there is no option anywhere in Vivaldi to change this. And this is when I learned something very valuable about Vivaldi. They don't really care about what their users want. I have read enough of the forums now to be very confident and very certain of that statement. They don't give a shit. And that goes one layer deeper, because one of the things that they don't give a shit about is laptop users. I don't know what went wrong. I feel like I just went down the craziest rabbit hole, which is what happens whenever I screw with Vivaldi. The quick form of what I want to say is that swipe gestures did not work in Vivaldi, and it was my understanding that nobody who contributes to Vivaldi uses a laptop with a trackpad, so they were not interested at all. What they prefer are their very strange mouse gestures, which as far as I know, cannot work on Mac, because the way their mouse gestures work is you hold down right click and you move the mouse some way to trigger something. So you can go back by holding down right click and moving to the left. I hate this. And honestly, if I do come back, I don't want this on. I am turning it off. The more painful thing here is that they don't really support trackpad gestures. I know that because yesterday I went insane trying to get my swipe back and forward working, and I couldn't. And when I read through their forums, it seemed like it just doesn't. Touch gestures, forward, backward. Just starting to use Vivaldi on my laptop, really like it. But my laptop, the touchpad gesture, swiping 2 fingers, doesn't seem to work. Reading other posts, it's not implemented in Vivaldi. Is this real? It's a crucial feature on a laptop. It's always been a strange oversight. Yeah, it's strange. So for these people, it didn't work. What you have to do, and what I had done, and I don't know why it's behaving properly now, is I installed an extension that fixed it. Yes, 2 years ago, I don't care. I was in here, and there were posts a week ago that still had the problem. So it's not a thing they fixed. The solution, as of 2024, was this extension someone recommended to fix it. And I had it, and it fixed it-ish. I used it, and I just uninstalled it, and it's still working, so I'm very confused. I'm extraordinarily confused. I have reset the browser multiple times. I've changed a lot of things. But the fact that there are this many people posting in here saying that they need this, and they're using the extension to fix it, the functionality is not available in Vivaldi. I have no idea what's going on that is allowing it to work. But there is no way in the last 24 hours they shipped a new version that fixes this. Everybody's saying that should feel bad. This browser drove me mad. There's a lot of these little things where they just refuse to budge. And that kind of seems like the philosophy of the Vivaldi team is, if it's not an option they offer in here, it's not an option that matters. There's a lot of soft breaks, like this bar not being hideable was very upsetting to me. But the hard break was definitely the hotkey thing. The fact that a web page's hotkeys take precedence over the browser hotkeys was enough of a problem for me to just give up. But I was actually leaning towards sticking with it. But I'd seen enough people giving another browser a go that I decided to ignore them and make my own. So I started working on what is not a browser. I insist that it is not a browser. You should not act like it is a browser. It was an experiment, but I started playing with what would a browser that I made look like. And I got to the point where I can search for things, do things on the web, make tabs, you can even put that here. And look, I can even see my own stream from T3, not a browser. Tab switching is immediate. I even have navigation working. I didn't have Command W working proper, but for something I built in an hour, not bad. I mostly did this as a joke, and I will not be continuing. This is literally 4 files and an index HTML. The whole browser window is HTML, and I'm using Electron heavily, very heavily. I've learned a lot about building browsers in Electron. The most painful thing is that you can't really sandbox the different tabs, because Electron was built with the assumption that you own all of the pages that get opened in it. I could either DIY my own encapsulation layer to containerize pages properly and then build all of the memory management, sleeping, and everything else necessary to make that viable, or I could fork Chromium and build it in C. And as I realized that there are decisions necessary to do any of this, I know making a browser isn't easy, but as I realized even the easy path had so many annoying gotchas that would result in something that was either really insecure or absolutely fucking miserable, yeah, I was not going to do this. I knew going in I wasn't. I even have my posts. The start of this thread was, I won't make a browser, I won't make a browser, I won't make a browser. And a lot of very smart people told me I should make a browser, which makes me concerned that they might not actually be that smart. Like we have, please don't make me do this, where I did the first demo of it. And he really wanted me to. But I'm not going to betray Mark. I'm not going to do it. It is tempting. And I might even in the future put out a scaffold that has all the features that I want, but is not safe or functional. I don't think anyone should use, and see if others end up maintaining it and making it something real. It would be cool. I'm not going to, though, because Vivaldi was close. And Vivaldi was close enough that I really thought I was going to stick with it. But after the gesture stuff, which according to chat, apparently isn't a case in a vanilla install, which is weird because I had a pretty vanilla install and it just didn't work. Where's the, swipe gestures work in Vivaldi on clean install. That was not my experience. I don't know. But the hotkey thing was enough. And the fact that they have no interest in fixing the hotkey thing was enough that I will absolutely not be using Vivaldi as my main browser. And I was close. So where did I end up? I ended up somewhere I did not expect. I ended up somewhere that I never thought I would land. It was a browser that I supported the existence of, a team that I was really confident in, and a project that I wanted to see find success. Because I think Zen Browser was doing everything right, and I still do. Zen Browser is a project you've probably already heard of, and we're probably screaming the name of as you watch this video. Because my most popular video about browsers, by far, is my Zen video. It's my 7th most popular video, 8th most popular video ever. Because it was really exciting to me. The thing that made me excited about Zen is that they weren't trying to reinvent the world. They weren't trying to build a new browser engine from scratch. They weren't trying to make JavaScript go die somewhere. They weren't trying to prove how smart and capable they are. They just wanted an open source alternative to Arc that was good and customizable. And when I first tried it, it was rough around the edges. Now, it's still a little bit pointy, but despite the fact it is Firefox based, I think I'm making the move to Zen. I've been using this as my main browser for the last 24 hours after using Vivaldi as my main browser for the last few days. And it has been a net improvement over Vivaldi in every single way. And it is even better than Arc in a handful of ways that I am genuinely quite excited about. Zen learned all of the right lessons from all of the other browsers. The team is genuinely awesome. Their Discord is super fun. Half of them are watching me live talking about this right now. I feel like this community is set up for success. It's a team of people who deeply care, who listen, and want to make the best browser. They don't want to show off how great they are. They don't want to raise a bunch of VC money. None of them even own a MacBook yet. And I am fixing that. I am going to ship a MacBook to one of the maintainers so it's easier for them to maintain the Mac version because I want this browser to win. I have been contributing to their Patreon at the highest tier that they offer since they announced the project, despite my deeply held disdain for Firefox. And I do not like Firefox. I could go on forever, but that's not what this video is for. The user experience and customization offered with Zen, combined with the effort the community and the maintainers are putting in to make it not just good enough, but to make it the best browser ever made, is enough for me to ignore almost anything, including the 20 minutes of rage I had earlier because there was a small break in the most recent beta where if you disable the animation for opening and closing the sidebar, you can no longer reopen the sidebar. Small bug, took us forever to figure out what caused it. And according to my chat, it's already been fixed. Look at that. Fixed comment with sidebar not reopening when the animation key is off. And to be clear, the animation key isn't some config in settings for you to play with. I am changing a ton of things in the about config, which if you close and open, gives you a big warning, proceed with caution. And I was in here changing shit because I'm picky. And it's only broken badly once. And they've already fixed it. That is a good sign. That's not just good, that's a great sign. Enough so that despite the straight up rage I had earlier, where I angrily, it was bad, okay? I still decided to film this video today because I am so pumped with how hard this team works to make every opportunity go well and to make sure everyone using the browser has their expectations met. And I'll just be straight up. Every time I've opened this browser, which has admittedly been every 2-ish months for a bit now, I have been like, wow, they've improved so much. I went from having to reconfigure everything to make it tolerable, plus a ton of extensions and things, to not changing almost any of the defaults. And now I'm very happy. It does everything I need it to do other than use a better base browser engine. But it actually is great. My biggest complaint the last time I tried was that I couldn't make the top bar go away because it had a weird hover thing, which I can show you how to disable. And also that I didn't have a good solution for Command-Shift-C to copy the current URL. As you see there, the URL has been copied to clipboard. Not only did they add a way for me to do that, they just made it the same default that already existed in Arc. So now if we scroll down here, copy current URL is Shift-Command-C. Praise the Lord. I am so happy they added that. I also didn't see option B. That's really cool too. Look at that. If you want to feel like you're using Edge, you have a hotkey to do that. I'll probably never use it, but you have that option. There are so many options, and they no longer feel like they're constantly conflicting with each other. All of the broken states I've gotten into have been not because of settings I changed in all of these tabs. They're not even because I'm using an old profile. It still has this ancient new tab button that I have to make a new profile to fix, which I'll do later because I was angry, okay? The only things that have broken for me in my most recent run have been when I was deep in about config, changing things that I had a warning before I changed. Speaking of which, Zen View Experimental, no window controls. If I toggle this, I don't even need to reset. macOS always likes to put its little icons in the corner like that, which is totally fine if you have your tab bar and sidebar on the left. Because now it's just there. This is fine. This is how Arc works. I want the tab bar on the right because the obvious reason, I'm on the right. So if my tab bar is on the right, I'm no longer covering the content. I'm covering my tabs, and who cares? It's the same reason I moved in my editor the tab bar to the right. It's the same reason that whenever I realistically can, I try to put the tab bar on the right. They offer that, which is a huge win over Arc because Arc does not do this. However, in order for those to still be there, they have to come up somehow. So they come up when I hover near the top, which isn't that big a deal, except for the fact that it shifts the page content down. And it feels kind of jank when I accidentally go near the top of the page and all of a sudden I went a little bit too close and now the page content is shifting. It's actually a little harder to trigger right now, which is a good thing. But it was triggering way too often for me. I asked about it, and within 5 minutes, someone in the Discord said, oh, we have an experimental thing in config for that. And look at that. Now it won't come up. And I never use those buttons. So I'm very happy with this. I am extraordinarily happy with this. I now, on a technical level, have Zen configured in a way that I am happier with than Arc. And I have never had a browser that I can honestly say all of the parts are now together in a way that I prefer to Arc. But we're here. We did it. I am happy. And once again, I will advise not following me down this crazy journey with browsers. I just want you guys to know that I am sorry for putting you on a closed source browser that has decided that they don't want to be maintained anymore. I guess that they're going to do enterprise features because they have a security head of engineering that is going to make Arc for Teams work. Cool. No, I don't care. And I should probably emphasize the other things I don't care about. All of the AI features in Arc were annoying. All of the grouping stuff was fine, but I didn't care. The weird little, I think it's called Little Arc, the preview thing they did when you click the link in another app, I hated it. Disable that shit so fast. Half or more of the Arc features annoyed me. I wanted a decent looking sidebar, some hotkey customization, a quick copy, and a team of people that actually care. And I guess if we go back to my original list, I should have added 7, a team that cares about the users, and accepted that there is no world where I can have all of these things. But if I am, sadly enough, living in a world where I cannot have all of these things, that means I have to remove at least one. And the only browser that removes one without compromising on the rest is the browser that removes 0.5. And if I'm willing to live without Chrome, the only browser that makes sense for me now is Zen. I am genuinely so proud of the team and the fact that a small community of open source devs made a browser that feels more like it cares than a well-funded billion-dollar company pissing their money away into hundreds of engineers building a thing that gets slower and worse every update. I am happy to have an answer to the people who are asking what browser should you use now. The answer is still Chrome, but if you're willing to put the time in, you want these features, and you're okay with the browser that is making a lot of changes and is still in an early stage, Zen is where I'm sticking. And to the people asking about Safari, because a lot of people have been asking about Safari, I am jealous that your job is simple enough that a browser that renders text really well and everything else barely at all has not inconvenienced you enough to give up. But Safari is a toy, not a browser. Zen is a browser, and it is a browser that I will be using going forward. I can't believe I'm leaving Chrome behind, but I am genuinely happy with where I have landed, and I hope you guys are excited to see a lot more Zen going forward. This is the browser I will be using, and I will do everything I can to support the team because I want Zen to win. I almost forgot one of the coolest parts about Zen that showed me just how focused on the user's needs they were. Zen mods. Oh, who cares? That's a Chrome extension, right? No. Zen mods are so much cooler than extensions. They still fully support Firefox extensions, but Zen mods lets you customize Zen itself. You can make significant changes to the browser. Things like making compact mode smaller. Things like changing the rounding characteristics. Things like hiding the little status bar when you hover over shit, which I've always hated. I don't know why every browser insists on having that awful little thing in the corner. I'll turn off the disable status bar thing so you guys can see it. See that little thing in the corner that covers text whenever I do anything? If I just leave my mouse somewhere accidentally, part of my screen's being taken up. I hate it. I never want that stupid little status thing. I don't care. I don't want it. Make it go away. There's just a mod that does it. That's so cool. Another thing that annoyed me is when you're in a split view, it highlights the currently focused one. Honestly, probably a pretty nice, useful feature. Personally, I don't like it. So I went in here. I found the Zen mod for it. Actually, I was just scrolling through the Zen mod, seeing what was there that I liked. I was like, oh, I didn't like the highlight on split. On. Whew, so good. So good. I genuinely love that they let us customize the browser itself instead of extending the JavaScript on the page we are on. It's the only browser I know of that gives this level of customization through an extension layer instead of just giving you a bunch of toggles that conflict with each other. And it's genuinely really nice. I'm sure a handful of these have broken because they've changed the browser so much, but I don't care. It allows for a level of flexibility like I've never seen before in a browser. And it's so nice to know that the rare things that it doesn't do that I want can actually realistically be added through here, or just customizing the CSS yourself. One of the few annoyances I had after getting everything set up how I liked was that there was a little activity dot that would appear on things here. What are these green dots? These little green dots were appearing on tabs that had activity in them. It's notification dots. If you're fine with CSS, then you can use this. And I was given the CSS and told how to get to the file that loads for all of the browser CSS. It's just a profile Chrome thing. You could find it in their docs or in their Discord, I'm sure. And I could just set the color of the attention dot to transparent nothing. And now it's gone. How cool is that? That I can fix my browser's weird behaviors with CSS. So good. Why is it named Chrome? Because the window around the browser is called the Chrome. And Chrome, the browser, was named after that fact. But even before Chrome, the browser, existed, the layer around the page was called the Chrome of the browser. Just a terminology thing that's funny now. But yeah, how cool is it that you can just change the browser with CSS? It's awesome. The idea of mods as a separate thing from extensions that give you this level of customization and control it's just so cool. And I think it's helping the browser advance faster too, because people will test an idea with a mod, and if it works well, they'll take the right parts of it and make it part of the browser. It's just one of the many things that's allowing this team to move really fast, solve real problems, and let you have the browser that you want. One last shout out to the Zen team. There's a link in the description to their Patreon. I highly recommend contributing if you want the underdog to have a successful journey here. I know I do. And I really genuinely hope they can prove that caring matters more than having a bunch of money and 10 plus years of history. You need to build what people want. And the best way to do it is to get it in their hands and listen to what they want to do with it. Zen is the only browser that does those two things, which is unfathomable to me. But I am so thankful they exist and that they will prove that caring and listening to your users matters more than any amount of money or time or Chrome-based bullshit that otherwise might make the browser better. So thank you, Zen, for making me use Firefox, but also for proving how much this matters. And until next time, peace, nerds.